Cable Bahamas has always been considered the innovator.
People can have confidence in Cable Bahamas as a mobile operator because of our past history. We've proven to the Bahamian community that we are in fact able to manage additional services as a telecommunications company.
Customers expect the best from Cable Bahamas.
The technology that we bring is revolutionary technology because we know that the Bahamian public, they deserve it, and Cable Bahamas is here to bring it to them.
We are ready. Turn us on.
The Foreign Affairs Minister reminds Bahamar CEO of his immigration status. Greg Moss hits out at the Deputy Prime Minister over that urban renewal audit. Plus, could the College of the Bahamas still become a university? It's Emancipation Day. I'm Kyle Joaquin, and NB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to NB12. Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell had no shortage of words this afternoon as he addressed attendees of Foxhill's Emancipation Day service. Mitchell once again hit out at Bahamar CEO Sakis Izmarlian's criticism of the government and the Prime Minister calling it improper and incompatible with the status of someone who is not a Bahamian. Mitchell said if the government does not put its foot down with Izmarlian now, then it would show other millionaire investors that they could come to the Bahamas and do as they wish.
It is therefore no surprise then that an investor, because he has the word billionaire behind his name, would have the temerity to believe that he can challenge the leader of our country on political grounds. Imagine now those work permit holders on their various jobs in the Bahamas. Seeing this and hearing this, they must think, well, if one of their own can attack the leader of the country without consequences, it'll be open season on every Bahamian employee in these establishments. The Prime Minister and the people of the Bahamas do not have to ask what the role of the Immigration Minister is where such abuse occurs.
Mitchell says each week there are increasing complaints to the Department of Immigration about foreign employers mistreating Bahamian employees, and it's an issue he wants to see come to an end. In addition, he said they have no right to speak to or about the government in the manner Izmarlian does. He said to cease and desist is the wiser course of action for the Bahamar CEO. Since Bahamar filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the U.S. District of Delaware on June 29th, Izmarlian and the government, in particular Christie, have butt heads constantly, with Izmarlian saying the government isn't doing what's best for the country and Christie questioning Izmarlian's mental state. The Foreign Affairs Minister says the Bahamar ordeal is simply a commercial transaction where a person is required to make payments and defaults. He said all this is a result of the developer not paying his bills. He added that the problem would go away if he were to do just that. Then there are the newsletters Bahamar employees receive where they're referred to as Bahamar citizens. Mitchell wasn't too fond of that either.
Well, let me get this straight. There are only citizens of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is the country to which we owe loyalty. Bahamar is a commercial entity designed purely for the profit of the developer. The developer cannot buy the young people of the Bahamas as it is seeking to do, and the young people of the Bahamas should not succumb to it.
Mitchell said while the project is important, the developer's money can't buy the government's silence. He added Izmarlian's statements aren't an attack on Christie as a person, but as the Prime Minister.
The office of the Prime Minister, and it deserves respect. One day, many a man or woman hopes to sit in that office, from the leader of the opposition, to ministers like myself, to the little boys and girls running around Sandlands Primary School. And if we allow the office to be denigrated and say not one word, we betray all our forefathers and foremothers and what they fought for.
But Mitchell wasn't done. As he is also responsible for immigration, he also sent out a little reminder to Izmarlian as to the conditions of his permanent residency.
It is at the very least important for an invitation to be extended to that individual to consider whether making the appropriate steps to live elsewhere if he does not wish to conform with the mores of the conduct of those who are economic guests in our country. He can consider that fact.
Fox Hill is perhaps the only community in the country that still celebrates Emancipation Day the traditional way, with a festival and parade. Mitchell says he anticipates the tradition will continue even long after he's gone. Meanwhile, Bahamar board member Dionisio de Aguilar is firing back at former Cable Beach Properties owner Phil Ruffin. In an interview with the Nassau Guardian's National Review last week, Ruffin said he always thought the multi-billion-dollar Bahamar project was too big for the Bahamas and was not surprised to learn the developer is seeking bankruptcy protection. Ruffin sold the Crystal Palace and Nassau Beach Properties to Bahamar CEO On Izmarlian more than a decade ago, paving the way for the birth of Bahamar. However, de Aguilar says Ruffin should keep his thoughts to himself because he was a bad investor who was not good for the Bahamas.
Phil Ruffin is an experienced operator. He's operated in numerous hotels in Las Vegas and has been very successful. And so he has a viewpoint. But I don't think he was a good investor for the Bahamas. And so I'm not minded to pay much attention to him. And it's always very easy to backseat quarterback these things. If the contractor and the developer had not got into this tiff, this fight, everybody would have said, great, it had all worked out well.
In 2004, Bahamar completed a purchase agreement with Ruffin to acquire Wyndham Nassau Beach Resort and Crystal Palace Casino and Nassau Beach Hotel. However, he admitted he regretted selling the properties. De Aguilar says Izmarlian, on the other hand, lives in the Bahamas and has invested emotional capital into the project.
If I had to choose someone to run this project, I would want the developer to do it. I mean, he's demonstrated to the Bahamian people his investment in this project. He's put up $900 million of his own money. He could have done this anywhere in the world, but he chose here. Not only that, it's just that the style at which he has done the project in terms of starting the Learning Development Institute by going into the neighborhoods with the worst problems to find the people who have had the hardest luck, to try to give them a second chance. The investment he's made in art and the artists of the Bahamas to incorporate their product in his project. The fact that he's gone around the world looking to attract Bahamians to come back here. Do you really think an agency of a foreign government is going to invest that emotional capital into the project?
Marco City Member of Parliament Greg Moss calling it troubling that the report of a constitutionally appointed office would be challenged. He said this in response to Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis commissioning a private audit of the Urban Renewal Small Homes Repair Program. Paige McCartney reports.
Moss said the Auditor General has a responsibility to keep track of government fiscal performance and should not be subject to executive oversight.
But to stand outside of that process and to challenge a constitutional function and a constitutional report, again, is troubling. It's troubling in the extreme.
In the House of Assembly last week, Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis said an independent report into the repairs program revealed that certain aspects of the Auditor General's report were erroneous. The privately commissioned report followed a damning Auditor General's report, which highlighted inefficiencies in the small home repairs program. That report revealed that 11 contractors were paid $171,000 for work that was not completed or never done. But Davis said the statement troubled him and prompted him to commission experts in the construction field to examine the veracity of the Auditor General's findings. Ma said the executive has no business scrutinizing the work of a constitutionally appointed office.
We have to remember that the Auditor General is not a civil servant. The Auditor General is not a bystander just commenting in some arbitrary way. The Auditor General is a constitutional office, constitutionally mandated to review the workings of the government wherever government money is spent. And their report should not be subject to executive oversight and executive differences. Their report stands as their report. It's supposed to be tabled in Parliament.
The Marco City MP went on to say that instead of being hindered, the Auditor General's office should have been better funded.
We just went through a budget exercise where we did not increase in any meaningful way the amount of money allocated to the Auditor General's department. We have a serious fiscal responsibility in this country, to fiscal crisis in this country, and we have a responsibility to go and get value for money for the people. And so the obvious starting point is to make sure money is not being lost through ineptitude or through corruption, which is where the Auditor General's report points. And so one would have thought that the starting point was to give the Auditor General more tools to better do his function, rather than to stand on the outside as the executive and question the constitutional functions of the Auditor General.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
In news from the crime beat, 2 American men are in custody tonight after they were reportedly caught on Chub Key with 3 handguns and a large amount of ammunition. According to police, it was on Saturday evening around 5:30 that the men were caught with the firearms. The 2 Americans and the firearms are expected to be flown into the capital this week for further investigation by the Firearms Tracing Unit. A sad indictment. That's how Free National Movement Deputy Leader Peter Turnquest described the announcement that the first ever Junkanoo Carnival went nearly $4 million over budget. Bahamas Festival Commission Chairman Paul Major released the carnival figures last week and defended the notion that the festival wasn't designed to really see a profit, but to rather be an economic stimulus. While Turnquest believes at this time when the government could have done other things with the millions overspent, that's not a good excuse.
This is an incredible investment of the Bahamian people's money at a time when most Bahamians are finding it very difficult to make ends meet. And to find out that not only have we spent $9 million, but we've wasted another $3 million, $3.8 million, I think most Bahamians will be very upset at that kind of overspend.
Those figures showed that Carnival drew participants and spectators by the tens of thousands, and the Festival Commission only expects it to grow from here. Marketing for 2016's Junkanoo Carnival is set to begin within the next few months. Organizers admitted that one of their major downfalls was late marketing. According to Turnquest, from the beginning of the Junkanoo Carnival idea, it didn't appear to be well thought out.
When the initial discussion was made about this carnival, it was estimated somewhere around $1 million to $3 million. Then all of a sudden it jumped up to $9 million. And now we find it's at 13 or 12.9 or whatever it is, $1 million. It says to me that, one, this was not very well planned out. It says that the control over the organizers was not adequate or did not exist. And they were out spending money wherever they think they needed to spend money, rather than having a concrete plan.
While Major still dubbed Carnival a success, Turnquest said from the outside it may appear that way.
They said that this carnival was going to result in increased stopover visitors, that the cruise ship passengers were going to account for a major portion of the revenue. And according to what Mr. Major said yesterday, there were only 800 for tourists that attended that carnival. 800 out of 115,000. That is sad, really sad. Now he says it's because they didn't get their headliner out in time. I contend that had very little to do with it.